And welcome to Disc of Ladyada.
Thanks, everybody. This was brought to you by Oscilloscope Music.
Yeah,
at
you can
Spheres.
put it on there. We bought this album on floppy, and I'm reviewing it eventually. But in order to review it, I gotta listen to it and watch it, and that's what I'm doing as I do work.
This is like Pitchfork, but multimeters. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing some Disc of Ladyada over here.
That's right. We're doing Disc Ladyada. Okay, so now that you know about the tunes, so that this week at my desk, I spent a lot of time working on the DAC 3100 that we designed a few weeks ago. We'll go with the overhead. I'll show it off. So to test it out, I've kind of got a weird setup, but this works out for me. So I like to write code, like library code on it at Mega 328, which is a little bit of a weird thing, but because it has a USB serial separate than the main chip, it's very easy to reset. Like it resets very quickly. It also has a very fast compiler because it's just an 8-bit micro, and also the I2C interface doesn't have bugs in it. Like it's pretty solid, so it does like clock stretching and it does multiple frequencies, and it's like pretty reliable. Repeated start, all that stuff. Like, you know, all these other chips have like weirdities, or they take a really long time to compile. And then I used that to program the chip, and then I actually was using a RP2350 feather to generate MP3 audio. Why? It's like I wanted to have it separate, so it's like I could have the I2S stream going. And this is the I2S data here. I got the I2S stream going, and then I could like tweak settings, and like it wouldn't start over. I didn't have to load a file. Like it just, you know, kept the testing nice and simple. And I was having like a lot of frustration. I was having like a lot of like the headphone was kind of working, but the audio seemed really weird and backwards. And it was like quiet, but then if I reduced the gain, it was louder, and it was also, there was like a hiss on it. And I spent like, you know, way too many hours debugging it and trying to figure out, because I thought it was my I2C configuration. Then I thought it was my power supplies. And then it turned out to be something totally different. It actually ended up, well, it was actually two bugs. And what's fascinating is these two bugs collided and they made the thing kind of work, which was much harder to debug than if I'd made one of these mistakes, I would have figured it out really quickly. But because there was two mistakes, it got a little bit hairy. So one thing is, this is an unsoldered connection to the two mechanical tabs. And normally this isn't a big deal. It's like, you know, oh, mechanical tabs don't get fully soldered. First off, I thought, for some reason, I thought I'd soldered it from the top, but I didn't. And it was not touching the contact. And secondary, one of these contacts is actually the ground for the headphone. And so I had a floating ground. And you're like, well, why, you know, why was the audio working anyways? Because I had another mistake, although I don't know how much, you know, both mistakes were a little annoying, which is I was using a iPhone headphone setup, and these are tip ring sleeve. And the thing that I keep forgetting, and like I've made this mistake, I made this mistake once like 5 years ago, but like I forgot about it, is the tip is left and then the first ring is right. And then depending on whether you have Android or iPhone, these rings do different things. Sometimes this ring is ground and sometimes this ring is ground, and the other one is mic. It's the bias into the headphone mic. And in this case,
Thing is, we went to Lightning. I mean USB-C. I mean,
this is part of the, well, it's just there's inconsistency.
This happened to me before.
Android has the opposite.
I needed to do something with the headphone jack, and I'm like, oh no, all I have is iPhone ones, and then there's like knockoff iPhone ones from back in the day, and those work different too. Cool.
So if you try to, let's see if I can show, if I do the connection between the mic and the tip, which was the left audio, you see it's like 600K. If you, and vice versa from the left. But if you go from the middle ring, you get like, whatever, 32 ohms. So the issue I had was, the reason it was working is not only did I not kick the ground, I swapped the microphone, but then on the board, it has a microphone detect circuit that uses a 2K resistor to ground. And so, and that, you know, it puts the bias and then it sees like, oh, is it pulled down? And that's how it knows if you have a headset plugged in. And so what happened is I did have a ground. It was just the mic detect ground going through a 2K resistor. And so it was like really quiet. But it was like, you know, you could hear it. It just wasn't like really loud because this has a really good gain. So if I like bumped up the gain all the way, I could like hear it. But if I bumped it too much, like I couldn't hear it. It was very, very confusing until like, you know, I was talking to Scott and he's like, oh, I don't have this issue on the Fruit Jam board. And that's because on the Fruit Jam board, these got soldered properly. So like, but it was like not the way I was testing. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have the split test. Anyways, it was like a confluence of things. So one, I have to swap. If you go to the computer, you see here, I have the mic detect, and this is that 2K resistor that ends up getting pulled into, it's not necessarily earth ground, but it's a DC ground because it's AC coupled in. And then this is the wrong one. So this A ground has to go here. This mic detect has to go there and has to be soldered in. And that's working great. And there's like no hiss because I actually have like a proper ground. I mean, there's a little bit of hiss. I'll say it's not perfect. And the hiss is actually another thing that was causing me confusion is like the amplifier was working fine for the speaker, but the you know, the Class D amp is like noisy as hell, right? So it would feed into the headphone output and make this like, you know, noisy, hissy sound, which was like, I was compounding. I thought like, was it related? You know, analog is kind of hard to debug because, you know, until you know what it is, you don't really know what it is. So, you know, a couple things. First off, I'm not sure how much you can really totally get rid of all of the Class D noise. I mean, usually you would only have either the Class D on or the headphone on. One, you know, I could move. It's tough because it's like this is just really like the worst location. Um, I don't really know what to do here. I could have, you know, the analog in is already going there. And like I don't really have a lot of pins. What I could do is I could drop these two mounting holes and shift this over 0.2 inches and then have the speaker output go down here. So it's like even farther away, although, you know, it kind of interleaves here. Maybe it's okay. Maybe if I bring this down here to the bottom row, and then this row will be shorter, but maybe that's okay. And this has like the reset and the, you know, maybe I'll bring out the microphone bias pin because that actually might be useful for some purposes. So I'm going to do a Rev B of this design. I think the Rev B will be fine. I only have to test. I have to test the mic. The mic detection, of course, isn't working because it's like flippy floppy. So I might. I did get a tip from the TI forums. They're like, oh, we'll just short the pin like on the PCB. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I might test the headphone detection, reroute this board, but I actually think it's like good to go. Is it? It doesn't sound. It's like, look, it's not the most crystal clear, amazing headphone. It doesn't compete with like your iPhone, but there's a little bit of a noise in the background. But like, I think when you mess with the gains, it's like for like $1. Like this chip is $1. It's like good for $1. So that's the results of that. Just took 5 hours longer than I probably would want. But you know what? Like, it's done now. It's working, and I want to use this chip for a lot of designs because I want to redo the AudioFX boards. Those are boards that are based on the VS 1000. No, it doesn't know. I just, you know, I think I don't mention the chip. So these boards use the VS1000, which has a built-in DAC. It's actually like a really good chip. It's just that there's like, it doesn't support MP3. It doesn't support polyphonic sound. You know, it's like you can't fit any more into the firmware. It only supports short names. It's like really minimalist. And it's like, I could do such a better job with something like an RP2350 with like a big micro SD card slot in the bottom, maybe, and then a QSPI flash, and then this DAC, which would be both an amplifier and a headphone out and line out. So, yeah, I'm going to use it for a lot. So it's like, even though this was a pain in the ass, it's worth it because I'm going to use it for a couple of things.
Guess you could say we grounded those headphone issues.
I grinded through it, grounded through it. Okay. Audio. It's very hard. It's very hard to do right. And what's funny is, you go to the TI forums and you're like, hey, how can I reduce, like, it's like, oh, maybe it's like a hiss, maybe it's like a routing noise thing. And it's like, even like the apps engineer at TI are like, yeah, should you split the ground? Should you not split the ground? Should you put a ferrite? You could talk about it for hours. It's like, basically nobody knows. Nobody has the proper answer. It's just like you fuck around and then you find out.
I feel like if someone figures this out, they're certainly not doing open source. So this is just in some closed source product, and like they figured it out, but like it'll never see the light of day.
The answer is always to have just a 4-layer board, but I don't have a 4-layer board. It's just put a gigantic, just make the biggest ground in the universe.
Just make a cap, more smooth it out.
I don't, to be honest, I didn't take 6003, and this is kind of coming back to bite me, right? Because I feel like if I'd taken that class, I would have. I'd know the stuff. Okay, next up.
Regret.
It's okay. I'm going to revise this, order another prototype. I think Rev B is going to be the one. I feel like I've learned a lot. I just want to get that mic. Although it's like, I think the mic detect will work, and I think it's just like my layout is a pain in the ass. And then maybe I'll make a version for the 3101, which has a stereo speaker, and then I could do the AIC, which has audio input as well. So I'm like slowly building my way. But it's interesting how few people use this DAC board. I would have sworn like, oh, there's probably a Raspberry Pi that uses it. Nope. Not at all. So if I get this working, this would be a nice little Raspberry Pi, like mini hat that could give you speaker and headphone output. Could be useful for some project. Okay. Next up, more work on the Fruit Jam board. We are making more progress. Don't forget, it's in the shop for sign up. If you want to sign up to get it, we'll get it out in the store. I spent too much time on that DAC, so I didn't get to do my revision on this. But actually, like, the hardware pretty much works. Like, we've gotten a lot done. The big task that happened this week was the DVI. The DVI HSTX library, which, well, Scott's doing a ton of work on this stuff as well. But Jepler has rocked out on this DVI HSTX library that there's even a PR. Oh yeah, there's the text mode improvements. This is kind of neat. So there's text mode, which is 720p. So maybe you can flip the text mode. And this is the output piped out of the Fruit Jam board on my desk. And what's cool about this is it has this beautiful anti-aliased font support with multiple colors. You get 8-bit color. Sorry, 8 colors, 3 bits. So you have the red channel on, yellow, green channel on, blue channel on, and then any mix you give, like, magenta, green, teal, dark blue. Like illegible dark blue that your terminal program always uses, and you're like, I can't do this shit.
For the folks asking, this is just HDMI out into my computer here, just like I do with everything else from the oscilloscope.
Yeah.
Where you have a converter from...
and that's from the I2S DAC, by the way.
And then, of course, the overhead has HDMI out.
Yeah.
HDMI out. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, your computer.
There's a lot of HDMI. Well, we're going to do more. It's funny. I forgot about the text mode improvements. So this text mode is good, but I was like, oh man, like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like more tints and stuff? And he's like, I don't do that. And then it was like, maybe you could have different background colors. So you could do like true VT100 emulation, which could be like a really cool thing. This could be a little VT100 emulator. Like, think of how cool it would be if we had, mini, not a Gopher browser, but like, text mode web browser on this. Anyways, so if you go to the computer, the text mode improvements that occurred is, one, we now have multiple shades of each color. So you can have white tinted, darker, brighter, for like bold and non-bold, or whatever, diffuse. and then different background colors as well. So this is here, and this works on any RP2350, and it uses the HSTX, so it doesn't use a PIO. It uses like, these pins, but it doesn't use a cord, it doesn't use PIO, which is, the other big project that we're working on is getting the USB to work well. And what's interesting is like, you never know what's going to be an issue until you actually like use it, because it's like, oh, it's a big deal. It's like we have an extra core, we don't have any PIO. USB should be not a problem at all. But then we learned something important, which is the USB bitbang PIO does not work well for low speed devices. It works great for full speed devices, which are like the 12 megabit, but it doesn't work good on the low speed. And what's funny is I was like, oh, but we've used keyboards and mice, but people had always just used the really nice keyboard and mice, like their fancy, like whatever expensive mice, because that's what they had on their desks. And so we had folks testing the USB hub. Like when we were first testing it, we would plug in like our nice keyboards and mice. We're like, oh, it works great. But then when we're like, okay, let's plug in like a cheap keyboard or a cheap mouse, it's because we want to make like, like from our store, we have inexpensive, like $3 mice or whatever, and they wouldn't work because they were low speed devices, not full speed devices. So some work is happening on that as well, but we're slowly but surely getting towards having full USB and HSTX support with mouse and keyboard, so we can work on some emulators. So there's a lot of this like base layer work getting done, but that's my Fruit Jam update. Beep, 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 beep. Fruit
Cool.
Jam. Teletext is coming, right? Teletext with a beautiful I2S audio. So I'm working on the audio stuff, getting that working great. And then Jepler kind of doing video, and Scott and Tech are doing USB and more. But this is a great demo for all the stuff that HSTX has done. And then, yeah, okay. So how are we doing on time?
You're at 17 minutes.
Okay, great. Let's do the great search.
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with DigiKey.
The Great Search brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Thank you so much, DigiKey. Every single week, Ladyada uses her power of engineering to help you find the things on digikey.com. What is the Great Search of the week this week?
Okay, so this week I spent a lot of time debugging something, and partially because I didn't realize or didn't remember that iPhone headphones were not the way I thought. The mic and the ground pin is actually microphone, and would be the second ring is the ground. And everything was revealed the moment I pulled out my handy pocket multimeter.
By the way, I have an idea.
What?
And this is just for our household or households that are like ours. If you're a household that does a lot of engineering, maybe we should put labels on the iPhone headphones that say, iPhone headphone, watch out.
Watch out.
Right? Just like watch out. Like a warning.
I know. It's
I've been burnt by this, and it just took me so. I'm just
everyone's been burnt by it. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody.
We should just put a thing on it that says this will burn you or something. Like it just has to. We just need reminders because I can't keep track of this.
Yeah, but I've learned a lot.
All right, I can't wait till I remember this again.
Okay, but this pocket multimeter. So it's like obviously I have a trillion multimeters. I have like every multimeter because I get samples, and so like I end up keeping or using the multimeter sample, and I keep coming back to this one. This one, and the thing is that everyone's going to be like, I can't believe this like cheapy whatever nothing multimeter, but listen to me. This is actually a really good multimeter. No, it doesn't have current mode, but how often are you using current mode? Like, let's be honest, folks. We don't really use current mode. If I have to measure current, I'm going to use the built-in measurement from my multimeter, or I'm going to use my PPK to do precision readings. This does AC, DC, beep, diode, LED. Not great for LED, to be honest, but it does do LED. And then frequency, which is, I don't use frequency that much anymore because I have a multimeter. But before I have an oscilloscope, I used frequency all the time to measure my crystals and to measure my UART baud rate. because there was like, you would put it on, you would print the letter capital U and then you'd measure the frequency and it would tell you because a capital U is a square wave UART output. Man, that really sucked. Having an oscilloscope was great, but I love this pocket meter, auto off, easy to use. Can you go to the overhead?
What was that?
Can you go to the overhead?
Oh yeah.
It's small, it's compact, it doesn't pull stuff off my desk. Easy to read, big numbers, auto ranging, which I think is fine. I don't really need anything else. So I wanted to, and it is Cat 3 with cap. I don't know what cap means, but Cat 2. There's hold, there's select, and then you can change the different modes. So I love this multimeter. I thought I'd show getting it on DigiKey, but then dun dun dun, I was like, oh, the PM51. PM51A. And I was like, oh, it's obsolete, no longer manufactured.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh, you know what? I should check out what other pocket multimeters are available. Again, do you want your Fluke $300 beast? Get it. I'm not stopping you, but I really like this pocket meter because it doesn't take up a lot of space on my desk. It's really,
Yeah.
the probes wind nicely. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the silicone, so it winds. It doesn't like flip out and hit me in the face. It's easy to find because it's red, and everything else on my desk is black. Okay, so let's look for multimeters. And again, there's a lot of multimeters, 700 different multimeters. But we specifically want, first off, let's go for active and in stock. And I'm going to exclude marketplace. I just want ones that are stocked by DigiKey. There's a lot of multimeters. X-Techs are great too, by the way. Klein are good. I've actually always loved my X-Tech 330, but I don't know how to explain it. Like the probe, it's big. It's just like, I can't put it in my desk and like, I've used it a lot. It's an excellent, excellent multimeter. And again, it has all the extra stuff. And they have more in the X-Tech series. Nothing wrong with this multimeter. And then of course, you can never really go wrong with a Fluke. Flukes are also totally beautiful and wonderful. Oh, this is kind of inexpensive. That's nice. $150. But I really like this pocket multimeter. So let me look for other pocket meters. And I would not call this a multimeter. I understand it's under that category. This is like a large scanner, oscilloscope, multi whatever, but you need to have a computer run the software. And it has its uses. And one day maybe I'll cover that. This one is also cute. This one is an iPhone-based one, so your iPhone becomes the display. However, I really think there's something to be said about multimeters that are like, you have it in your hand and it has a display and you can like, it's not grounded and you don't have to worry about it like connecting to your expensive device. There's a couple. So let's filter out the ones that they have to have a display. Let's look for only ones with displays. Not a ton of options. So I have one of these. These are pretty good, this triplet one. I'll be honest, the probe storage is cute. It does have a little built-in stand, but I prefer just to wrap the probes around the meter. But this one does have a nice hard case, and I've used this one. This one I've not used. It looks extremely compact. It's very cute. And it looks like you select the mode with a little like nubbin up and down. But let me tell you, I keep coming back to this series. Looks like they upgraded this series. Now it comes with a case, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's not super cheap. It's not a $20 multimeter, but it's $100. But I use this multiple times a day. I love it. I recommend it. The PM55 is, I guess, the update to the PM51A. The batteries also, I'll tell you another thing, the battery lasts forever. It's like, I change the battery maybe once every 2 years, and I use this constantly. So if you want just like a little multimeter that like you just, whatever you put on your desk, it's there when you need it. You don't have to connect all these weird ass things. The probes are pre-connected, they're pre-attached with strain relief, so they're ready to go. Pick up one of these because they're really great. I'm gonna go to get another one on my next DigiKey order so that if I accidentally crush this, or I don't know, it flies away, some crow picks it up and takes it, I'll have another one.
Always get 2 and then get 1 more.
Yeah.
That's what I learned.
But I have one here and I have one on my office desk. It's awesome. So yeah, this is my great search pick.
That's a great search.
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with DigiKey.
That's our show. More.
Okay.
Soon. We're doing it.
Some weeks are just like, oh my God, 16 things of hardware. And some weeks are like, I did one thing, but I did do it. I'm glad I didn't give up.
Heavy lift.
Yeah.
All right. See everybody throughout the week and more.
Bye, everybody.